Where do you start when everything seems to be falling apart?
Try to be sane in an insane asylum. How long you think you gonna manage? Your sanity ain't gonna manage long in an insane asylum. Everybody gotta be sane or you gonna go insane too.
Who's sending me this message? Am I not getting the message because I keep seeing it? And I'm trying to feel the energy because at one time I was fearful of it because I did see it.
I have a lot. My schedule is like really busy and kind of balancing that with spiritual life. And I guess you can call myself kind of a loner.
In case you missed the self-actualization tour, Chief Yuya has released his lecture DVDs from the tour. So definitely check them out for a powerful learning experience. You can buy the DVDs separately or in collection, which includes the Shrine and Altar DVD, that is the companion to the Shrine and Altar book, which offers you a visual guide and information for establishing your spiritual gateway. And of course, we always provide you with tools to empower yourself. So learn to do your own divination with our new OB divination set. You can buy the OB separately or in a kit with its companion. Grasping the root of divine power, where Chief Yuya will provide you with instructions on how to do your own divination using this ancient oracle.
House Spiritual Center would like to invite you to join our learning community by encouraging you to sign up for our monthly webinars. Our webinars offer live interactive instruction designed to help empower you in your spiritual evolution and ritual work. The webinars we provide are purposed to help you dive deeper into the concepts and calculations of the Chief Jegna of Anu Nation, Haru Yuya Asan Anu, through the decoding and exploration of sound, symbol, ancient and contemporary text, and various other tools used to invoke a state of highest awareness. We are able to abandon the constrictions of dead thought to travel to higher states of awareness, which is our rightful designation. To view our list of webinars, go to saduluhouse.com/events. Topics for 2016 include meditation, spiritual cleansing, astral projection, chakras, crystals, water magic, candle magic, the third eye, animal totems, dreams, and sex magic. Remember, go to saduluhouse.com/events to register.
Welcome. Greetings, everyone. Welcome again to another segment of Chief Speaks. And as you all know, I am H. Yuya Asan Anu, also known as Chief Yuya, also known as Yuya, also known as many other things. But in any event, I want to welcome you again to another segment of enlightenment and transformations, as well as high frequency radio zone Chief Speaks, where we're dealing with various subjects. But of course, we've been dealing with this theme this month of success and progress. And we're picking up from where we left off last strong. And last strong, we dealt with the concept of success and really what success, not only defining success, but how we can recognize success in our own lives. Again, a lot of times when we're engaged in these high aspirations and high ambitions revolving spirituality or cultural evolution or social understanding and discernment, sometimes we can get a little depressed, not thinking we're really getting anywhere. And as I've said many times before, that everything in the world is vibrating. So if everything is vibrating just at different rates. You know, on a molecular level, some things are vibrating at a high and faster rate, and then some things are vibrating at a slower rate. The things that are slower, we tend to recognize as being more dense, and the things that are faster are less dense or less condensed, like your gases, for instance. But the thing is, everything is moving. So there's no such thing as anything ever being stuck. There's no such thing as I'm not moving in my life. I'm not getting anywhere, because you're always moving. Everything is moving. The phone or the tablet or the laptop or maybe the desktop that you're currently experiencing this on is vibrating, is moving, So even inorganic objects or forces are moving. So we dealt with that in terms of last strong show, dealing with success and what it means to actually march forward, what it really means to move, and how those movements really do signify acquisitions of success, because success is a succession. You're marching forward, you're moving forward to your next step. So for this Strong's insight or message, I'm tossed between, I've been calling them insights, but I'm tossed between insights and message. So if you see it change soon, then you'll know why, because I may have fallen on message as opposed to insight. But anyway, we're dealing with success again, but this time I really wanted to speak about the standards of success, which is something that I alluded to in last strong segment, and alluded to how we gauge and what our parameters are for success in the new seasons, because as each successor comes along, new definitions come along, or new standards have come along. And as many of you know who've been listening and following the shows, we recently did a show on the flags, right? Or the coat of arms, or the crest, or the standards, right? And that was a Foundational Friday show. And in that segment, I think it was Thunderground Thursday show. But anyway, you guys know how I am with my shows. I do so many of them that they start to blend in after a while, but luckily they're all titled. So, but what we really talked about in that show was the overhanging flag, or the overhanging culture, or the overhanging imperative in victory that marks what success is for you. So again, if you plant your flag at the highest post, and that flag has emblems and symbols and colors that represent what success is for you and your people and your group, then that flag represents the overhanging paradigm that governs everything you do, because that you're always trying to achieve again the ambitions or the highest ideas of that standard. Well, success is the same thing. How do we know that we're successful? Because we're moving closer to that standard that we've created. And sometimes that standard is just the freedom that's needed in order to discover our purpose. See, a lot of times we look at freedom as a destination, and freedom's not the destination, because if it was, you need not come to the world. Of course, through freedom and through a free mind, free dome. This is your dome, right? Free. A free dome or free thinking allows us the thinking matrix and the thinking patterns in order to fulfill and to discover our purpose, right? So freedom becomes a tool for the attainment of our life purpose. But freedom is not the destination. You can be free to do things and not know what to do with yourself, right? You could be at liberty to do things, but then not be free to do things, So we understand that liberty and freedom are two different things, and one doesn't necessarily lead you to the next one, all right? But we have this freedom to move towards what our goals are, and we determine our goals by our standard. So we determine even our highest or most pinnacle and supreme idea of success by what that standard is that we've signified. And the important thing is to understand that if you have not demarcated a symbol or a standard of success at some point in your life, then you are following someone else's model. You always have a flag. You're never flagless. You're never standardless. You never not have a culture. Now, your culture or your flag or your standard may not be of your own design. It may not be for you. It may not be progressive. Remember, this month we're dealing with success in progress. So your actual culture or standard may be regressive. And a lot of times that occurs if you allow your cultural paradigm to be designed and superimposed on top of you by an alien culture. Because in many senses, most senses, an alien culture is going to do what's necessary for them to maintain their position, as they should. That's intelligent. It would be unintelligent for them to do other. It would be unintelligent for you to do things that are purposely regressive. It will be unintelligent for you to establish a paradigm for someone outside of your group that will later on undermine the positioning of your group. Okay? But just because you're moving towards something, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're moving forward, which is a pro action, right? Doesn't mean that you're moving forward. You could be regressing away from what your flag is. Picture if you have a flag here, you got a flag here. This is your flag, this is your enemy's flag or your adversary's flag. You may be moving towards this flag thinking that you're getting stronger, right? That's a regression of things. Okay, that's a stepping back of things when you should be moving towards this flag over here. Okay, so being able to point out what the standards are or what the standards should be as the age changes is extremely important. And again, I want to reiterate for those of you who may not have caught it, if you have not picked out a culture, one will be picked out for you. And I know you've heard me say that before. It's not new, especially those of you who have gone through some of my rites of passage experiences and taken that class. You've always heard me say that to the rites of passage participants because it's such an important thing. You have to understand that culture is the mind of the spirit world. Okay? So culture dictates and establishes the vital components of your very perception of the entire world. Your perception of beauty is a core component of your culture. How you perceive what is beautiful, what senses or faculties that you use to perceive beauty is a core component of culture. And that one little thing, if you take that one little thing out, if you say, okay, well, this is now beautiful to you and this is not beautiful to you, do you know that you rearrange a person's entire culture from that one thing? And I want you guys to think about that. Those of you who are still so enamored with icons and models of beauty that don't speak to your ethnic group. And I know a lot of times we use a myriad of excuses for that. And a lot of times it's just fear. Deep inside us, for some of us, especially those of us who are melanin dominant, there's still that memory of persecution for cultural identification. There's still that memory of persecution for being our natural selves. So we come up with a lot of slick ideas and reasons for moving away from our natural selves or for being attracted to something other than our natural selves, whether it be an image or whether it be in actual matrimonial pursuits or courtships or intimate pursuits. But the truth is, it's because of that stain, that fear that's still underlying. And understand that you can't have the rest of this culture and then pick and choose certain things. So even your identification with a standard of beauty is an identification with a culture. Okay? Your identification with even a way of eating is an identification with a culture. Your identification with how you perceive or how you engage and interact with the spiritual world is an identification of what your culture is. One of the easy markers for culture, like immediately when you're speaking to someone, is their language, their accents, their tones, their manners, right? This is something that you can use right away to give you an idea of what a person's culture is. And sometimes it gives you a geographic mapping. Okay, well, that person has got this type of accent, or that person has this type of dialect. They must be from this region or from this area. They act like this. they follow these type of ways. They follow these type of rules. You see, those are markers for culture. You see. So when we get back to this idea, because this is not a show about culture, we'll do that later, but it's necessary to understand culture for us to understand success. Because your culture defines what success is for you. You see. So for us who are members of the Our New Life Global Ministries family, our culture is predicated and pivots on the 14 African principles. And for those of you who were able to check out that segment, or I never really did a segment, I maybe shared 1 or 2 principles, but who were able to come out to Black and Nobel and listen to that lecture, then you understand what why the 14 African principles is necessary. And don't worry, actually I said I gotta do this. When I'm on camera, that's what I used to always do when I used to teach. Hold my fist like that. I like doing that to people all the time, but doing this. But that information is coming soon, all right? There was a book that I was working on, which was much larger work at one point, and I decided to condense it because the standards of things have changed. People don't read as much as they used to, So sitting down and writing a 400- or 500-page book, people will buy it because they want it on their shelves. It looks good, it's thick, it's big. And if you're a person who's known to know some things, it's like, yeah, I got this book, but it may not be as effective. So I've tried to make the works that I do very accessible, not just financially, but also intellectually. I try not to do anything that will lose a person. So with the 14 African Principles book, I actually stripped it. And it'll be done pretty soon. And then there'll be some videos and stuff. But basically, when we're dealing with the 14 African Principles, we're dealing with the Nguzo Saba and the 7 core principles of Ma'an. Okay? So no big secret there, and no reinvention of anything there. Okay? But those principles, from an internal and external perspective, which I go on to explain, and I'll continue to explain, because this is the core pedagogy and doctrine of the Anu Life Global Ministries, or the Anu Nation, or the Anu Order, right? So much Anu. But this is our core doctrine. So in that being, you're always going to hear it. You don't have to buy certain medicine. Now, if you want someone to apply it for you, or someone to hold your hand or guide you, give you assistance, that's different. But for certain core values that we all need and we all can use to rebalance and realign and get right again, that's just given. That's just freely given. All right. So the basic understandings of 14 African Principles gives us our flag. And with that flag, what we're able to do is now create the understanding of the standard. Now, once we have the understanding of that standard, what we then have is a clear system of benchmarking to determine if we're moving further away or further from what our successive goals are, right? So that creates a new standard. So like I've said many times, if you go back 20 years or 30 years or 40 years or 50 years, what was defined as success was different. There was a time when being able to sit at a counter with people of all different races was a success. And that was a success. Now, I am not one who's an advocate of integration. As a neophyte and as an outsider, because I have to say an outsider because I wasn't there, it's easy to sit back and say, yeah, Dr. King should have did it like this. And Medgar Evers should have did it like this, and Merle Evers could have did this. The Deacons for Self-Defense should have went this way with it, and the Panthers should have went that way with it. And that's easy to say in hindsight when you're not in the midst of battle, in the midst of action. But you're supposed to do that. Never think that your elders are above scrutiny. They're not. And sometimes you'll listen to elders and you're like, this just isn't going to work anymore. It's a new day, and that's why we have to work with each other. But no, I'm not a advocate of integration at all. I do acknowledge that people have to get strong in their own identity groups before they can break out of the identity groups. I'm not a fan of identity groups, but this constant need to assimilate and accommodate can be a destructive thing, where you completely lose yourself and never get a real footing on where do you begin in the world. And to try to figure out where you begin in the world, usually you need to begin around people who are like you. Share a common history, share a common interest, share a common culture. Okay? And segregation, in my humble opinion, really disrupted that process from ever occurring, along with other things that it also did. But again, me not being in the midst of battle, it's easy to say that. I wasn't on the front lines in the 60s and in the 70s or in the 50s. I wasn't on the front lines then and dealing with what had to be dealt with then, and even the brand of oppression that was dealt with then. I dealt with my own, but it wasn't like what that was. So it creates a different mind based on your environment, right? So that creates different standards for success. So it's easy to look back and say, oh, they should have did this way. No, you should now do it your way. Because based on where you're at today, there's a new standard that has been created based on your experiences. You see, based on your environment, based on your context. And of course, certain things are timeless. Treat people the way you would like to be treated, right? Don't steal people's things. Make sure that everyone has. Or maybe that would be a little more, I would call it communitarianism. Some people would call it socialism. So, be that as it may, some of these are still very timeless principles, right? But some things have to be updated. Some things sometimes we have to look at and say, okay, let's try this for relevancy. And if we have an immediate aversion to other ideas, let's find out where that aversion is coming from. Like if I speak about female circumcision, right? For many of us in the West, we may look at that as being very primitive. We may look at that as being an unnecessary rite at this point. We may look at it as being, or like they say, female mutilation, genital mutilation. They just take it right there before they say circumcision. We may look at that and say, well, that's not necessary anymore. If you look at the sciences of things and this and that, but who's saying that? Who's denoting that it's not necessary? Though I may not be one who's an advocate of it, I am more of an advocate of learning why it's done, why it was done, why it's still done. Is this some of the backwards things that we need to get rid of? Or is this something that we need to take another look at based on where we've fallen? Creating a standard in the midst of personal lunacy is impossible. And that's where we get that but. Remember, I did the show recently on but, and I said, okay, people will say, I know I shouldn't be eating this, but I know I need to get back into my spirituality, but I know what you're saying is the truth, but, you see, the but always is the fall down into the flesh, down into the corruption. I know, I am, I be. These are the accurate things that you're saying. These are on point, right and exact things that you're sharing. But I want to do the wrong thing. That's all but ever means. You can put it in front of anything, and I'm telling you, that's what it is every single time. He's a nice man. She's a nice woman. Yeah, I heard this one recently. She's a great woman. We had two children together. We do very well together. We were never really in a relationship. She respects me. I respect her. She's a wonderful mother, but I just don't look at her that way. You see? So, me, after that but, you let me know how much of a fool you are. But I don't look at her that way. She's perfect. But, you see, Now, one could say she's perfect, but I'm not perfect. Get perfect. Based on your definition of perfect. You know, if she's good enough to lay with and have children with and raise children with. But I don't see her that way. And the ones you do see that way are giving you years and years of headache and grief. You see? So sometimes we have to look at what our standards of success are, and we have to be careful about basing them on a positioning that may be based on current lunacy. Very dangerous. And a lot of times we do that. We know we're not right. We know we're not doing the right thing. I had a friend like that. One day I was trying to, rest in peace, he transitioned recently. Just would not, he ate himself to death. He would not eat properly. And I was over his house and I had bought him a blender. And I said, listen, let's just start with some smoothies. You know, you like smoothies, you know, and we'll throw some fruit in there. Then I'm mixing it up. I'm saying, listen, we can get some cacao, throw that in there, and throw a little maple syrup in there, and some peanut butter, and it'll almost be like ice cream and frozen bananas. You know, so I'm trying to slowly wean him off the really bad stuff and give him some transition stuff. Nope. I don't want my fruit blended up. Fruit is supposed to be eaten. I don't want my strawberries. No, it's supposed to be eaten. That stuff, I ain't messing with that stuff. You'll eat straight poison. And this friend, by the way, was a paratrooper. He used to train paratroopers. So, and one of the things he always told me, he said that when he used to speak about his job in the military, he would always tell people that, you know, when they would say, what do you do? He would say, I train people how to die, on the best ways to die. That's what I do. When I would train young men jump out of planes, I'm training them and teaching them how to die. But you're afraid of a blended up strawberry. You see the insanity and the lunacy there? So you're crazy. You're a food lunatic. But you create a standard based off of your lunacy. You see? So imagine what would success be to you. Sitting back, eating a bunch of garbage, falling asleep, ripping and popping your buttons open and saying, oh, that was a good meal. That's some cooking. That's success to you. So even your goals and your movements towards success are based off of that current insanity. So that's why the flag is important. Looking at, well, what flag is causing me to set my standards? And you may look up and say, what the heck? I don't believe in that. Scars and stripes forever. That's not me. You know? So you may look and say, no, I need something that represents where I really want to be. And then once you set that standard, or that paradigm, that matrix of what's going to be, then you start seeing that, okay, now my progressions forward are actually forward progresses as opposed to regresses, based on what that standard of success now is. So in this day and time, maybe getting a good city job may not be where we've last left off in our standards of success. A lot of us, we speak about, and in order to do that, you got to look at what's going on in the world. You know, we may look at, okay, well, wow, you got these poisonous seeds. Agriculture has now become criminalized. You know, that's something I need to look at. If I try to get certain seeds to grow, I can be fined and even jailed for putting real organic seeds that will produce more seeds later. I can be thrown in jail for that. So growing food has become a criminal act. Real food. You see? So based on that, is my flag covering that? Do I need to tweak that flag a little bit? You know, and when you start looking at the various areas of your life, and I'm going to tell you the easiest way to begin is food, clothing, and shelter. That's easy. And look at it from the physical perspective. but also look at it from a metaphysical perspective. Food, clothing, shelter. What are the things that I need to do in this day and time in order to secure those items? Without a lot of philosophical meandering and, well, they getting ready and they getting ready. Right. You can't base your standards of success based on reactive principles, because if you do that, then people can always change your standards. They can always give you something to react to. Your standards have to be the flag that say, this is the flag that's going to knock out your flag. And regardless of the amount of battles that are going on, this is the flag that signifies the victorious accomplishment and achievement of the war. You see, so without that higher standard, without that banner, you don't know if you're succeeding or if you're not succeeding. That's where it becomes dangerous. You see, you don't know if you're progressing or if you're regressing. So you'll be doing things, and then you'll find at the end of it, not only am I not getting anywhere, I'm exhausted. I'm just tired. One of the phrases that I stay away from a lot, and it's hard because of my schedule, but I try not to say I'm busy. You won't hear me say that. And a lot of you clients who call me and speak to me, you notice you'll never hear me really say, you say, how's it going, Chief? You won't hear me say I'm busy. I usually say, it's been a progressive day. Or this strong has been really progressive. Okay? Because busy could just be this. Real fast, real slow. That could be busy. And you could feel, busy could feel like this, but it could really just be a circle. And sometimes we fool ourselves into thinking this is what life is anyway. What goes around comes around. Without realizing is this. Yeah, I'm seeing the hand again, but I'm seeing it at a higher level as I achieve upwards. I'm seeing a different perspective of it. So let's say this is Oshun. I could do this for the rest of my life, busy. Ebo, offering, Oriki, bimbe, dance, ritual, initiation. Or I could do this, help me with my rent. Help me conceive. Bring peace into my home. Make sure we get this land. Ensure that we establish a proper legacy. Give me your mind. Thank you, Oshun. Now you can join with me. I'll take you up to the next place. That's progress. That's progression. You see? And the only way you'll know if it's that is if your standard and your flag has been planted by your kinsmen or kinswomen or by you. That's the only way you'll know if it's progress. If it's been planted by someone, I don't care how much I was born in America, I'm an American. Again, if that's your mentality, you're in the wrong place. I'm not in the place anymore in my work. I've been doing this for so long that I'm okay with saying that certain things are not for certain people. Certain questions I just don't answer anymore. I'm not doing it. And I should also explain, probably a lot of you are wondering, he didn't take any calls last strong. He's not taking any calls this strong. Yeah, I haven't. Because we need to deal with some information, and you need to apply it, because sometimes when we start building and we start moving in a progressive action, because you don't have a real flag, some of you take us off into another place that we don't even need to be. It has nothing to do with where we need to go. So I end up getting sidetracked. And if I'm getting sidetracked, then you're getting sidetracked. Okay? So sometimes you got to humble up and just listen. And you probably also noticed, which you may have, some did comment on this, and they said, the sessions are shorter. You didn't do 2 hours or whatever. Well, Monday, you got Masterminds Monday. It's about 45 minutes to an hour. Wednesday, you have a new Asafo. It's about same things, but we'll say an hour to even it out. Thursday, you have Thunderground Thursday, an hour. Friday, Foundational Friday, an hour. And Sundays, Chief Speaks, is 2 hours. Sometimes we go to 3. But we'll say 2, okay? So with that right there, Masterminds, Anu Asafo, Thunderground Thursday, Foundational Friday, and Chief Speaks, right? With that right there, you have 6 hours, approximately. Sometimes more, sometimes 7 hours. So you got about 6 hours, 6 to 7 hours of some powerful content. I would have to ask you, have you put 6 to 7 hours into successive movements within a 7-day cycle? If not, then you don't need 6 to 7 hours of instruction. If you get 6 to 7 hours of instruction and you put 5 minutes in, or none, you just still soaking up instruction, then we have to look at the paradigm and say, okay, it's time to redefine what teaching is. It's time to redefine what a spiritual leader is. It's time to redefine what success is, what we consider success to be. And I'm not saying it's not necessarily the amount of time. I'm using it as an example, because you may put 5 minutes in and change the world, you know. So don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it's got to go head for head, because honestly, if I give you 2 hours of instruction, that should be worth at least 20 hours of work. So that's really the standard. So that 6 to 7 hours really should be like, 12 to 14 hours worth of work or more. I would really say more, like maybe 60 to 70 hours of work from that 6 to 7 hours of instruction. Okay, so a chief is a coordinator, not necessarily a leader, as I've told you guys many times before. You have those who purport themselves to be leaders. If you need a leader, go ahead, but as a coordinator, I have to make sure that we're moving in a certain direction. And if I see that there's anything that's being done by myself or anyone else that takes us out of that direction, or maybe causes us to regress, or just causes us to make a bunch of lateral movements without making progressive movements, then I have to figure out how to herd everyone in to a better direction. Now, and I'm not calling you sheep, I'm not calling you sheeple, but shepherding is a part of this. Believe it or not, shepherding is a part of this. If you're a teacher, you're a spiritual guide, a spiritual coordinator, a cultural chief, or communal chief, like Anu Nation is, it's not just enough to stand up and talk. You have to have the heart to lead at times, and then you have to have the heart to guide, to embrace people and say, come on, we're gonna go over here, we're gonna go over here. Guide them along gently. Sometimes you got to grab them by the back of the neck and say, I love you, but come on, drag them with their feet. No, you got to have the energy for whatever it is. And that requires you knowing the people, knowing the context, knowing the condition, knowing what works and what doesn't work. And that's why there have been some changes. Okay, that's why there have been some changes. So that those who are ready to move and to make things happen, they're getting what they need. And you don't need 5 million gems for you to buy one boat, for you to buy one piece of land. You see, you don't need so much. That's what I'm trying to make clear to you. Even in my books and the works that I do, I try to make them pretty condensed, all of them. I try to make pretty condensed because and of course they are information packed. Some people have picked up on what I did with my works. Even the shows. There's a poetry to it. So, you can read a poem. A poem may be 5 lines. You read it, boom, okay, wow, poem. It was cute. And then you may go back and say, wait a minute, there's a code here. Certain words are being used, the amount of words, the amount of lines. This is something I could study for the next year, even though it's only 5 lines. But if I just read it in 5 minutes, I also got something too. It's the gift that keeps on giving. And that is the complex style that I've always tried to perfect. And I'm still trying to perfect. Learned it from Robert Nessel Mali, Fela Kuti. James Brown, masters at it. They gave you music that a 5-year-old could listen to and understand and get right away. But then at 50, you're still listening to the same song. Because you find that each time you go back and listen, you hear something different. Or you feel something different. It takes a certain type of mind to be able to do something like that. To give something at every range. To the adept, to the neophyte, So yeah, you don't need as much as you might think. But our standards of success must change if our contextual environment changes. And our contextual environment requires different tools and facilities and mindsets in order to achieve victory, in order to recapture the flag, or in order to plant the flag. It's foolish to continue on doing the same exact things or basking in the glory of past achievements and accomplishments if those past achievements and accomplishments were only supposed to note your last starting point. Not what you should be constantly going back to recreate. Sure, you can make an ankh, a pyramid, put in your backyard, and you can sit under there and meditate all day and speak Medu Netir. You could do that. Nothing wrong with that. Or you could look at the new pyramids. You can figure out how to make yourself that ankh and that pyramid. The ankh is nothing but an electromagnetic tool with electromagnetics. How do you create yourself? How do you present yourself as a conductor of such energy? How do you change your tone and your pitch and use your tone and your pitch? Just like when you would hit the ankh and it was like a tuning key, or a tuning fork. How do you set your tone and your pitch so that you can then change the pitch and tone of everyone around you and let it reverberate out? Because once you start vibrating, doo, somebody could be doo, but then when your vibe gets to it, they turn it doo, then it amplifies. Then it goes to the next person, doo, 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 doo. The new ankh. Need electricity to do that. So we make our ankhs usually out of copper, right? Then we put, all kind of different things on them, and stones and crystals and stuff like that. Everything that you have inside of you. Nothing against the ankhs. In fact, I have one that I made, a huge one. Oh, took it out to the other shrine. Yeah, I use them, Don't need them. But I use them. Don't need anything. But I use stuff. Because we're in a space now where if you still need 1,000,001 relics around you to be what it is that you say you are, you're not going to make it. This is a different environment now. Okay? So, again, we're going to keep on with this theme, right? And really your takeaway or your take home from this session is dealing with the standard again and how we determine the new standards of success. They can't be yesterday's standards of success. And I know that becomes difficult when you have involved parents and family and they say, get yourself a house and get yourself a 3-family house and get 2 tenants in there and they can pay the mortgage for you. Then you ain't got to pay nothing. Then you join the National Guard and you can come out when you 40, 45 and you have a pension and you do this and then you can go to the VA and you got benefits for the rest of your life and all these different things that people told us. And like at that time, yeah, that was a standard for you. That was awesome. That was an achievement for you. But we want other stuff. That's why sometimes when other people come to your country, they look at you with, with a bit of disdain. You've been here all this time and you're not a millionaire. They come here, they just want to work. And they don't realize, well, we've done that part already. Now we're interested in being deep and conscious, because the conscious people are in the West. I know we love studying Eastern traditions and Eastern philosophies, but really, where are the really deep, hard-hitting, reality-cutting and slicing people at? Who can take that information and make it relevant and still be cool? They're in the West. You know it. That tells you something. You see? The standard is different. So if you're looking at the East and looking at the standard of the East and saying that, well, this is what they did that meant success there, and then trying to apply it to where you are now, it's not going to work. And it hasn't worked. The only way you can try to make it work is to try to recreate that here. So you got to now build another Washington, D.C. But you find even those who built Kemet over here, they still established it with a different paradigm that worked for them. Even when they put their funky ancestors on the money, right? They put their funky ancestors. Now that method came out of the continent. Matter of fact, it was the Nigerians that had the first minting press. You know, I know everybody's wrapped them in this. We use cowries, ewo, we called it ewo. We use ewo for money. Yeah, we use cowries. I mean, it signifies something, but we had coins, we had mints, you know, with images on them. And someone saw that and said, money is a current, money is spiritual. Put my ancestors' faces on it, and I constantly stay in contact with them and their agenda and their standard of success. That's why when you read your bills, you see all this Latin and all of these different things, and you realize I'm holding a doggone magic wand in my hand. I thought it was $1. It's a magic wand. You're holding their standards in your hand, charged by your belief in it, because that has become your flag. Thank you. This has been another insight for Chief Speaks. And in our next session, we're going to be dealing with progress now. How do we know when we truly are progressing, and how do we define progression as opposed to regression, and how do we stop from regression? You know, sometimes you find yourself on one of those slippery slopes where it's like, man, I just can't get my footing. You know, I can't get back to my rightful place, or I just feel like my life is shot. You know, how do we get out of that position? We'll be dealing with that. All right. I am Chief Yuya, Chief Jegna of the Anu Spiritual Order and head instructor of Sadulu House Spiritual Center, saying thank you for joining me. Thank you for listening. And I honor you all until such time.
Chief Yuya teaches classes on spiritual growth, personal development, and indigenous ancient spirituality. They're absolutely amazing, and they are offered online so you can access them from any location across the globe. The classes are also designed so that you can go at your own pace. So you can register at any time and enjoy the ongoing support of our online learning community.
The Alpha Omega Store is a family-owned and operated premier online store serving as your one-stop shop for all of your spiritual and self-development needs. At the Alpha Omega Store, we offer you hard-to-find spiritual and ritual supplies, books, DVDs, personal development services, monthly specials, international shipping, and more. From spiritual supplies to business products and services, our mission is to provide you with the tools that will put you on your road to success. Purchase your quality products and services today at alphaomegastore.com. Bring yourself to a place of spiritual and holistic balance with exclusive life design services at osirislife.com. At Osiris Life, we offer our members exclusive one-on-one instruction, including 3 monthly service level options to choose from, monthly spiritual consultations, monthly podcasts and videos, custom tailored development plans, spiritual work done on your behalf, life coaching and support, and working solutions with real results. Awaken to your personal greatness and purchase your membership package today at osirislife.com. And now, back to our segment.